The tragic tale of Absalom, a story of ambition, rebellion, and heartbreak. In the ancient kingdom of Israel, a drama unfolded that would shake the very foundations of the royal family. At the center of this tragic tale was Absalom, the charismatic and ambitious son of King David. Absalom's story is a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked ambition, the devastating consequences of rebellion, and the heartbreaking pain of a father's love. The early years, a life of privilege and promise. Absalom was born to King David and his wife Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. As a member of the royal family, Absalom was raised in a life of luxury and privilege. He was handsome, charming, and intelligent, with a quick wit and a silver tongue. Known throughout Israel for his extraordinary good looks, he was flawless from head to toe, with his long, flowing hair adding to his royal allure. Many believed he was destined for greatness. As he grew older, Absalom became increasingly aware of his own strengths and weaknesses. He was ambitious, driven, and determined to make a name for himself. But he was also impulsive, hot-headed, and prone to reckless decisions. The relationship with his father, a complex web of emotions. Absalom's relationship with his father, King David, was complex and multifaceted. On the one hand, Absalom admired and respected his father's strength, courage, and wisdom. He saw David as a great leader and a just ruler, and he wanted to follow in his footsteps. On the other hand, Absalom felt overshadowed by his father's greatness. He felt that he could never measure up to David's standards, and that he was destined to live in his father's shadow. This feeling of inadequacy and resentment simmered just below the surface, waiting to boil over. The seeds of rebellion, a tale of resentment and anger. As Absalom grew older, he began to feel increasingly frustrated with his father's rule. He resented the fact that David seemed to favor his other sons, particularly Amnon and Adoniah. He felt overlooked, undervalued, and unappreciated. Absalom's resentment and anger simmered just below the surface, waiting to boil over. And then, one fateful day, the spark that ignited the flames of rebellion was lit. The rape of Tamar. A crime that would change everything. The foundation of Absalom's tragedy was laid in a devastating family scandal. His beloved sister Tamar was cruelly violated by their half-brother Amnon. King David, though deeply angered, took no decisive action to punish Amnon. This lack of justice left Absalom seething with rage, vowing to take matters into his own hands. For 2 years, Absalom waited patiently, masking his inner turmoil. Finally, he orchestrated a deadly plot, inviting Amnon to a feast and having him killed in cold blood. Though his actions avenged Tamar, they fractured his relationship with his father and forced Absalom to flee to his maternal grandfather's kingdom in Geshur. For 3 years, he lived in exile, cut off from his family and his homeland. Despite the betrayal, David's heart ached for his estranged son, and through the intervention of Joab, David's commander, Absalom was eventually allowed to return to Jerusalem. However, David's refusal to see him left a wound that festered into bitterness. The conspiracy unfolds, a web of deceit and betrayal. Denied the full reconciliation he craved, Absalom turned his focus to winning the hearts of the people. Every day, he stationed himself at the city gates, intercepting those who came to seek justice from the king. With charm and empathy, he listened to their grievances and promised them fair treatment. "If only I were appointed judge in the land," he would say, "then everyone who has a complaint or case could come to me, and I would see that they receive justice." Absalom's words and actions endeared him to the people, slowly undermining David's authority. Over 4 years, he built a loyal following, laying the groundwork for his ultimate rebellion. Declaring himself king in Hebron, he rallied his supporters and marched toward Jerusalem with an army. The news of Absalom's uprising forced David to flee the city, leaving behind his palace and his throne. The sight of the once mighty king crossing the Kidron Valley barefoot, weeping with his loyal followers, was a poignant reminder of the cost of betrayal. The rebellion, a tale of bloodshed and betrayal. Absalom's temporary triumph soon gave way to disaster. Though David was on the run, he was a seasoned warrior with loyal and experienced allies. The decisive battle took place in the forest of Ephraim, where David's forces clashed with Absalom's army. The dense forest claimed more lives that day than the sword, and Absalom's forces were utterly defeated. As Absalom fled on his mule, his infamous hair became his undoing. It caught in the branches of a large oak tree, leaving him dangling helplessly. Despite David's explicit orders to spare his son, Joab, the commander of David's army, thrust 3 javelins into Absalom's heart, ending his life. His body was thrown into a pit and covered with stones, a humiliating end for the prince who sought to be king. The aftermath, a tale of grief and mourning. When David received the news of Absalom's death, he was overcome with grief and mourning. He had loved Absalom dearly despite his son's many flaws and mistakes. David's lamentation over Absalom's death is one of the most poignant and powerful passages in the entire Bible. "O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee, O Absalom, my son, 2 Samuel 18:33. The legacy of Absalom, a cautionary tale. The story of Absalom serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, the devastating consequences of rebellion, and the heartbreaking pain of a father's love. As we reflect on Absalom's story, let us remember the importance of humility, obedience, and loyalty. Let us also remember the depth of a father's love and the pain that can result when that love is rejected or betrayed. Here are some questions to reflect on. What are the dangers of unchecked ambition, and how can we avoid them? What is the importance of humility, and how can we cultivate it in our lives? What are the devastating consequences of rebellion, and how can we make amends when we have rebelled against authority? What is the nature of a father's love, and how can we respond to that love in a way that is honoring and obedient? May Absalom's story be a reminder to us all of the importance of living a life of humility, obedience, and loyalty, and of the devastating consequences that can result when we reject or betray the love and authority of those who care for us. As I reflect on the story of Absalom, I am reminded that God gives power to whosoever he wills. Those who seek power at all costs and by all means always end up in shame. Eventually, Solomon was crowned king. He was not power-drunk like his brother Absalom. Rather, he waited patiently and was crowned king at the appointed time. Please share with us what you have learned from the Absalom story over time. God bless you. Please like, share, and subscribe.